these two signs will, if anybody comes from that direction, it'll point, it should be obvious how to get them to the library.
Have we thought about maybe a combination sign, library, auditorium?
Yeah, there's, one of the other Wireless project ideas was to make a poster that we can put down at the kiosk that's along the Zim Smith Trail. And that would be for people, if they go up to the kiosk, they'd be able to see a map that showed where the library was, where the auditorium was, and where the labyrinth was. So that would be one way. We figured that having another sign closer to like Leah's that would direct traffic to the library, that's something that I think is more of a village. I guess that would be something new. And I don't know if that may affect traffic or something, and I figure that's something for the village to decide rather than me tackling.
Well, anybody, if they're driving to the village and don't know where it is, it would be expedient to have a sign to get them there as quickly as possible, rather than driving around and.
Yeah. And having a sign by the kiosk or closer to Leah's that directs traffic this way, I mean, that's a possibility, but is that something that the village wants to see happen? Is having more traffic come from that direction? I don't know. I'm willing to put the signs wherever is needed.
Maybe Lake Ridge going up.
Oh, where is the green sign? Is it at the corner of George and Burlington?
It's right.
Yeah, in the church.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so it already is.
I figure most people coming would be coming. If they're wondering where the library is, they probably stay on that main road and then see that green sign and come in. But that's my guess.
Right, but I do like the auditorium and library being on the, maybe putting both of them or separately, doing them separately.
There's been talk for years about getting signs for the auditorium as well, so that would be my recommendation.
Is that something you'd like to see Wireless do? Check on?
We can always have VB2 do it.
Yeah.
Well, one sign.
I mean, definitely, if it's something you want to tackle, something that, I mean, is Wireless looking, having talked to this, is this going to be financed by Wireless, or is this something that's ideas and they're going to want the village to pay for?
Oh, no, the signs that I checked on, they were probably a little bit smaller, the estimate that I got, but it was like $40 a sign. I assume if we get them a little bit bigger, it'd probably be $60. That's well within the Wireless budget.
Yeah.
That's something we could take.
No.
I'm sure that.
Between the three of us, we could fund it.
Absolutely.
Unless I hear objections from this august body.
So you'd like to have a sign made that had the library and, just the library, or do you want to have something else on there?
Library and auditorium would be
Library,
helpful.
They're right in the same area.
Okay.
Easier.
Okay. Okay, I'll get some estimates and then run it by.
Okay.
Once we get
Great.
Actually, I've got to get in touch with Adirondack Sign too about a couple memorial signs for the parks that we have. So thanks for the reminder. So is that public comment? Scott, did you have any more, or were you just introducing there?
That's it, yes.
Jim?
Thanks for the light on the flag. And what's going on with that pickup truck? We moved it down back, so it's not quite as obvious, but I saw it. So.
You caught it. We are going to take delivery of a big truck. We'll be putting up one of the big trucks for auction, and at the same time, we're going to do both of them.
The blue trucks?
Yep.
The International?
Yep. We got its replacement is in, and it's being assembled now.
Okay, so they'll both go. You're just going to have an auction down there or something?
I don't know. I don't know how that works. Have to.
But it obviously was running now. You found the keys?
Oh, we've always had the keys.
Oh, I thought they told me the keys were lost. That was why it was.
No, the battery's dead.
Yeah, well, after it sits there for 2 years.
Right.
I actually drove it, and
Did you? You did?
I did. I drove it down to Tractor Supply to pick up some stuff last summer, a while ago. So it does work. Drives like a truck.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, public comment. Treasurer,
I've got 6 items today. In the treasurer's report, actually I'm going to add an item, which is a report out from the tree committee. Just to let you know that weather has caused delays, obviously, with the auditorium tree removal. And we're currently looking for a landscape designer to help plan the replanting of the auditorium area. I think the agreement we had with Adirondack Tree Surgeons was that they would be done by April 1st. So hopefully we'll take care of the next 5 weeks.
When is the next tree meeting?
It is next Tuesday.
Can you hear? I'd like to attend.
Okay, I'll double check and I'll send you a notice.
Cool, thank you.
Number 1, the village accountants CHS have completed their W3s, which is just earning and tax reports for the feds. At the end of the year projects are ending, they are continuing to work on monthly reconciliations for fiscal year 23-24. Number 2, the village is in the process of completing some paperwork to complete our grant contract, such as insurance information and other miscellaneous items. And we think this is Gary, tell me if I'm wrong here, we think this is the last step to completing our contract and having the grant funds released.
I believe so. That's how I read the email.
That's me too. Item number 3, the DPW equipment maintenance code is over encumbered by $800. A resolution is requested to move funds from the DPW new equipment code to remove the over encumbrance and fund the maintenance account through the end of the fiscal year. This would decrease item A5132.2 DPW equipment by $5,000 and increase A5132.41 DPW equipment maintenance by the same amount. Number 4, a new 2025 International truck to replace the DPW's 1990 International. The big truck, as is referred to, will be ready for delivery in the coming few weeks. The cost is $240,190. The resolution is requested to move funds from the DPW equipment reserve to a spendable account in order to pay for the vehicle and covering incidental costs that may be added prior to delivery. The invoice will be included in a monthly abstract PO prior to payment. So just like the moving money for the fire truck, I'm asking permission to move the money because it's the kind of thing that gets forgotten when the POs go through, and I'd like to have that legally covered. But you'll get a chance to sign before any checks go out. Number 5, the last month the board moving, excuse me. Last month the board approved a transfer of funds from the UFB to clerk contractual for the purpose of paying taxes on the Van Patten land purchase. The fund codes were in error. The correction is shown below in bold, and a resolution is requested to adopt the correction, changing the UFB code to A599 and the clerk contractual code to A1410.4. That's just a legal crossing with T's and dotting I's. And go ahead. Number 6, the treasurer provided the January abstract for approval last month, which contained a math error in the A fund.
Sorry.
The total for the January abstract was approved for $167,821.44, and it was approved per fund as shown below in the chart there. A resolution is requested to adopt the correction. I think on your sheets, the old January abstract with the corrections needed is circled with red, and on the back is the corrected January abstract, which comes in a few $1,000 lower in total. And it's the A fund, the A total, and then the total for the January abstract in its entirety.
So motion to accept items 3 through 6.
So move.
Discussion? Tom?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Chief?
For January, we had 49 alarms, for a total of staff hours, and drills and outside training and other activities. It brings the monthly staff hours to just over 1,000 for January. For the new truck that should be here at this point mid-March, it's still some final assembly work's being done before it gets delivered to the local dealer here. We also have emergency vehicle safety plugs that come in. Those were purchased with the $5,000 grant that we received from the Global Foundries Foundation. Basically what those do, they plug into the charging port of an EV to disable the vehicle so it won't inadvertently move in case it hasn't already been shut off if it's involved in an accident or something. Then also this Saturday we do plan on conducting ice rescue training out on the lake, even though the ice is about 18 inches thick. So they did manage to get a couple holes made today, so it looks like we'll be able to conduct the training. We tried making holes a couple weeks ago and gave up.
It was too thick?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it's about 18 inches of ice out on the lake, so. And then the last item, I think that everybody remembers New York State approved local training stipends. We're putting together the list of folks that would receive the training stipends for the 2024 calendar year. Basically allows us to provide payment for folks who attended state classes and successfully completed those. That's it.
Okay, and you're gonna take a look at the budget stuff and get back to me as soon as
We
possible?
might need to make a few adjustments to it just because our equipment maintenance and repairs
Yeah, I noticed there were a
is a
few,
lot higher than we had originally budgeted.
quite a few this month.
Maybe we should have a new truck parade.
That's right, that's a good idea.
On the lake.
I'm not taking the $900,000 truck.
You said the extra stuff.
All right, thank you. Peter?
Well, I'm working on the annual MS4 report 2025. It's there. I'm in the middle of fire inspections for the village. We have about 22 open building permits, still people working very slowly. We have an issue with 11 Ames Avenue. What are we going to do with it? That's the Airbnb that's should be closed. That's, we believe, open. And the auditorium tower, I think, I have some handouts I can give out here. We met with the structural engineer. I think the fix is not going to be as bad as we think it is. But he's hopefully going to get me drawings by early next week. And they're going to start next week in removing the bell from the old tower, putting it in to the new cupola or belfry, and come back to work. It's been brutal out there, so.
Peter? We got $5,300 to replace that wood. Your experience, is that a fair price?
It's $5,300 to pay an engineer to do drawings, a structural engineer.
Too good to be true.
Too good to be true, right. That's a couple of 2x4s, I think.
Now, drawings to replace wood?
If you saw where the wood is, it's holding up the truss, the big wooden truss by the organ. So that rotted wood is holding up the truss. So we have to, I'm sure what he's going to do is come up with drawings where he's going to have to jack up that truss from the basement, lift out, cut out the rotted wood. We're going to use a piece of wood of the old tower and slide it in there. I mean, that's the plan. Do I think it's going to be overly expensive? I really don't. It's not overly complicated, at least so far. It looks like it's about a 5-foot piece that they have to replace.
They're not. Is it a single post? From top to bottom, two
Yeah.
stories?
Yeah,
And they're just gonna cut out a piece of it?
yeah.
Got it. was their concept for making it one solid integral
When they
assembly?
first built it, you know, it was put up in 1888.
No, I mean, when they slide the 5-foot piece in, you're obviously not gonna just leave it there. It has to be fastened either
Yeah.
with some sort of metal.
Well, I'm waiting to get, you know, the drawings from the engineer to see exactly how he's gonna put, you know, something metal front, top and bottom, how's he gonna attach it?
You know,
It looked like at one time, if you look at the picture, it looks like somebody put some metal in there many years ago. You can see a piece of metal, you know, it's like somebody, this has been going on for a long time, this problem.
Is it likely that the other vertical supports around the auditorium are?
We did walk around, I had him look at the other side, he said it looked pretty good, he didn't see anything there. So I think this is the main, what had happened was, it leaked in between the tower leg and the, support for the roof of the auditorium. They were bolted together, somehow water got between them. And rotted, and the funny thing is, the other wood didn't rot, the, auditorium wood.
Better news than it could have been.
Yeah,
the auditorium wood is probably significantly newer than this,
oh, yeah,
which probably has a lot to do with why that rotted out.
yeah. It looked like he said, it looked like it came down from the top, maybe through the flashing, he did, you know. It was odd because he said also, I think there was spray foam in there. I don't know, there was spray foam. I
A
don't know.
problem somebody found.
Yeah, somebody found it
And
and-
just kind of,
Last time the tower was replaced, probably.
Yeah, I think that was around 19, what was 40 years ago.
Yeah, eighties, early eighties.
Is it possible that's what's causing the pinching down where the roof's coming down on the organ? Are they gonna do any kind of, are they gonna jack it up from where it is?
Yeah, they're gonna have to jack it up. You know, I read a couple of structural reports. It's amazing. Edna had a structural report done in 1978, and then Paul Marchand did one in maybe the early 90s. Now we have this
Good
other one
master plan,
that
Yeah.
Lydia did, and they all talk about the fact that yeah, they have to jack up that. I think they could deal with both things at the same time. I mean,
Right.
Paul Marchand talks about the fact that, but I think the problem, there's a metal post in there now.
Yeah, they use it as almost like a jack.
Yeah, but it's just transferring the weight to the floor,
Right.
and there's nothing underneath it.
No, I think they were just so worried it was gonna come down
Yeah.
on the organ that they were doing anything.
Yeah, so
to
just,
stabilize it.
we could have him look at that too.
Yeah. Yeah, because in that, that'd be great. I mean, that would solve a lot. That's something that we thought was gonna be astronomical to fix, so.
Maybe not, yeah.
Okay, great, that's awesome.
You're going to ask them about that?
Yeah, I will,
Okay.
So anyway, he plans on getting us drawings next week. DreamWorks said they would be willing to do the work. And they're just complaining because it's $1,300 a week for the lift that they have. Well, work, but just don't work. It's so cold you can't open the doors to the auditorium. That whole piece of, the whole slab is ice, like this thick.
If they're gonna be trying to get out there with more, we need to have our DPW try to clean off.
They are gonna do it tomorrow.
Oh, they are?
I told them,
Okay, good. Just in time for the next snowstorm.
yeah.
Snow's okay, it's the ice.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you. Bob?
Hasn't been much going on. I went out once in February so far, and there's nobody parking on Route 9, of course, because there's not enough snow, or not enough room in the snow there. And I've watched that closely. There really
Yep.
isn't enough activity on the ice, so really isn't anything going on.
Good. Thank you, and AP3?
AP3, well, actually, I'm gonna do, I mean, I thought David was gonna be here today, but basically, a lot of the AP3 that we've been, working on right now is, through David Straight. Did a nice presentation on, they have a fundraiser going through.
Oh, yeah.
And they raised over $5,000. AP3 is gonna help out with, whatever we can do to fix up the dressing rooms. So he had a nice, presentation with the head of the program, Brady, I can't remember.
Vandy or
his last
Brady,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, and they went through and came up with some ideas of what they could do.
Is there anything written that you could share with,
It's actually on a video. He had the whole thing on a video, so I could actually share that with you.
Okay.
I'll send it to you, or I can have David send it to you. I actually had it on the laptop, and everybody at the AP3 meeting watched it. Eric was there. So, yeah. So right now we're in the process of kind of coming up with ideas and presenting it to the village. It doesn't look like anything's too super structural with it. A lot of changing of maybe adding things for dressing rooms and maybe changing that bathroom that hasn't been repaired into a changing room instead of trying to, put another toilet in the area for now, because that's probably something that's going to be a little bit more, more work and more money. So they're just trying to utilize the money that was raised to, do some dialing up to the dressing room area. We did discuss the fact that if they're going to be putting money into fixing up the dressing area for Cartesian, that it should actually be good enough for, make it so it's actually usable for any other productions that we have in the auditorium itself also. So it's not going to be just basically for Cartesian, it'll be for other things that are going to be, programs and stuff. So with that in mind, try to keep in mind that if you're going to be building dressing rooms or something, that it shouldn't be just for children. It should be for adults, for adults having to change too. So, but no, it was a nice ideas. I think it's something that's definitely doable. And like I said, once David has everything he wants to present to the village, we'll probably come and figure it out. And along with the help of, we've decided to throw some money into, if we needed extra money to, add to the cost. Putting $10,000 into it, we should be able to get done what they want to get done. Another thing that was brought up, something, and I don't know, I know Eric is working on something right now. I don't know if you want to, about maybe putting some placards up around the village, one being where the old school, the auditorium, not the old school, the museum area where the labyrinth is. We've talked about this many times, maybe putting some.
Eric or Eric?
Eric Leach,
Okay.
yeah, about putting some placards up and kind of looking in. We're just gonna start researching on, early research on what we could have there. Some kind of a placard that displays what was there at one time, the museum, the school.
Kind of like when you go to the battlefield or something,
Yeah.
and they kind of
Yeah.
looking over and you can sort of see where.
That's a lot of the ideas. Even down at the preserve, they have placards down at the preserve, down around the preserve. So kind of just an early look at that. And once again, that's another thing that I would love to work with, and AP3 would love to work with the village and get something like that done. I think that's a great idea. Maybe start there and work our way around. Where the Wentworth Hotel was, maybe where the schools were, and some of the buildings that aren't here, and have some kind of history and a visual of it. And then one more thing, as we're on the topic of the bell tower being on the ground, Eric, and I know this was another small thing that we might be able to do. It would be a great idea before we put that tower back up, maybe to wire it up, an easy wire up, so we can illuminate the inside of that at some time, or is it something that we could do before we bring it back up into the air? I mean, if we did it now, it'd be a lot easier. I don't think it's really something that's that.
Like solar lights, like, so you wouldn't have to run wires?
I don't know, I was thinking, I think that we were talking about maybe illuminating the inside of the,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Put them up there, shining up.
So I bounced the idea off Jason, who's trying to spit it out. He has thoughts as an electrician.
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do would be to put the tower up in place and then go after it, look at what the best source of power is, and possibly run a circuit up there, set it up so that way maybe it's, I have some ideas on how we could illuminate it. Maybe it's a project that AP3 could take on,
Yeah.
or AP3 and, the village or whatever, but I think there is some things that we could look at and not only get some just white light, but possibly look at something where you could put seasonal lighting in there
Right.
as well, and have an easy way to control that seasonal lighting. I think there's some directions that we can look at. I was involved in a small project on the DEC building where we installed some lights that wash up on that green dome on the DEC building, and one of the things that was kicked around in that project was color changing lights. And it's not a super hard install, but it's something that you need the structure in place, because you could do a little prep work, but you still have to get into the building with weather tight penetrations and
right,
things of that nature.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be good.
David worked
Oh,
with
yeah,
Phillips.
that's his
He did
master.
an
That's his,
internship, and they lit up bridges and buildings all around the country. And he gave me this beam of changing light colors for the front.
oh, you had that at your house for a
Yeah,
while,
I
didn't you?
did.
Yeah.
I still have it, but, for some reason, it runs on a computer, it's not working, so I have to be somebody to look at it. I'm trying to get Dan to look at it, because Dan was familiar with it.
There's a lot of lighting options. I think
Yeah.
if people are interested, it's just something you gotta
Yeah, I
consider.
just thought,
Like, do the
yeah.
wire, eventually get the wiring up there and then make it so
Yes.
it's.
I mean, our whole idea was, while it's on the ground, would it
That's
be
a
easier?
great idea.
There is some things about it being on the ground that it would be easier.
Yeah, yeah.
If it
Well-
wasn't 12 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll get warmer, yeah.
But I think the bigger thing would be to take a look at, find out what type of system we want to use to, do we want to use standard light bulb bases and put in, what's the wave bulbs or the GE adjustable color bulbs that work off of Wi-Fi?
Right,
And then, like Dan or David or
Yeah.
whoever's in charge of the auditorium could be able to just connect to the bulbs off of Wi-Fi
yeah, yeah,
and adjust the color accordingly.
yeah, well, we can definitely sit down with Dean.
While we're on the topic of electrical, the Carpe Diem suggestions, a lot of them are like putting up new mirrors and lights and stuff so they can do dressing room stuff, which is all great, except for the fact that the electrical in there isn't that great. So we might, as a village, want to decide if it would be worthwhile to rewire at least those sections before they get in there and start plugging in bunches of lights and blow everything up. And or set it on fire.
Are we at our capacity with the boxes there?
No, and based off of stuff that I've been into, there is a lot of room for improvement, and there's a lot of defunct, not up to today's code wiring in the building. It could use a solid comb through.
I mean, Carpe, I did watch the video that he was talking about. They want to put in a whole bank of mirrors and lights like you would see in a dressing room. And as Dan was saying, the kids plug curling irons in and all kinds of stuff to get ready.
In that case, those should all be pulled out of either probably the virtually empty main panel that's in there. There's currently two 200 amp panels. One is virtually used for all of the auditorium, stage lighting and all that stuff, which throughout time, all the upgrades that Dan has done, the power usage has gone down because it's upgraded to LEDs and more power efficient everything. So coming out of the other panel, we could easily put a couple circuits into the changing rooms. Maybe do like a outlet strip for the hair dryers and things like that.
Right.
So I would suggest that, before you go too much further, but also, is there fire smoke detectors and stuff in there?
I know that the fire department is definitely looking into getting.
I believe there was a system.
Yeah.
It is, and I forgot who I was talking to about this. It might have been Dan.
Probably Dan.
But there's the pre-existing system was done with beam detectors, which is about the only way that a new system would be done. I think the reason that the system was essentially defunct is because animals can get into the facility and set it off too frequently. So in order to gain fire protection in that main area, unless we wanted to install a whole bunch of conduit and actual heat detectors, which would have to be, there's actual special cold weather heat detectors that would have to be used because we don't heat the space. That could be done, but there'd be all sorts of conduit and all sorts of stuff. Otherwise, beam detector would be the most cost-effective, least visually intrusive method of doing fire protection.
So I think we need to take some time before the season starts and think about really hard about that electrical in those back rooms. And also Dan points out, you have the kids, and they do use curling irons and they have practically set things on fire. I think we truly do need to spend some time making sure that it is safe.
Who would be in charge of organizing that?
I gave a list to Sharon on what was needed for they need a pull station in every exit door.
They need a lot.
Just to set off the alarms. Also, when I was walking through the building with the engineer, like the structural engineer, he said, "Hey, look, there's some knob and tube here." I said, "I'm sure that's not, it's old, you know." I'm saying, I'm hoping.
I wouldn't put it past being active in the auditorium. If it's, I wouldn't put it past being active. There's a lot of old electrical in there still.
It's right in the box as you go in the door, by the bathrooms. There's an old box on the wall there.
I think that's still an active box.
There's some knob and tube running there.
Okay, so, I mean, there is so much when we start talking about the auditorium.
Yeah.
So, to your point, I have no idea who needs to tackle this. I think as the village board, we need to figure out a way between now and when the snow melts to figure out who needs to be in charge of that. And we need to make some changes before the season starts as much as possible, and also try to get ahead of Carpe Diem here a little bit to make sure that the things they are adding don't cause problems. I'm a little concerned. Carpe Diem is enthusiastic, right? The same thing that happens with the bell tower will happen with whatever they do. You peel off one piece of the onion, you're going to find a rotten piece underneath, and it just keeps going. So I'd like to get ahead of things as much as possible. So if we could figure that out sometime this winter and maybe think about it. When's our budgeting season? It's coming up just shortly. So maybe we need to start thinking about it and laying out some funds there as well. That would be my approach. Like, we just can't solve it.
So are we just putting this on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
It's a topic for discussion, I think, that needs to just be figured out.
with discussion between now and the next meeting too.
With the focus on finding a person who would be
I vote
organizing.
I vote for this.
I would totally take the lead on whatever.
I second that. Okay, Jason, thank you.
Keep that can down the road.
We'll expect your report at the next meeting.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, Scott, that worked out perfectly. Thank you.
Let's
Thank you.
face it, I was gonna be the one.
Like, we'll volunteer, you were gonna be happy anyway.
It's gonna be.
I offered to help Dan run one circuit, and I ended up putting the panel box, running the beads, and I spent like,
We're gonna have you climb up to the top of the cupola to put lights in, and you're gonna be busy.
Right.
whatever.
Alrighty. That's it?
That'd be it.
Okay, clerk.
A reminder that water bills are still being accepted with penalties added to them. Food pantry items, we're still collecting here, and we'll be making a delivery to the Multi-Community Center the first week of March. The author of the History of Round Lake book was scheduled to come in and kind of changed his plans due to weather and illness and various things. Looks like he's postponed till March.
Beginning of
There you go. Cleanup days are scheduled for the Whirlers Cleanup Day and also the baseball field cleanup day for April 5th with the rain date of April 11th.
Same day?
Yes, how convenient. Village garage sale is May 10th. We're looking into a bulk waste pickup day. I think we're getting pricing and figuring the dates on that. Prior to all of that, though, the Cookie Smackdown has been scheduled for March 29th. Looking for more people to sign up. Only a couple have done so already. And correspondence is later, right? No? We received correspondence from Paul Parker after the last meeting with the amended agreement for the property, the partial property exemption. And 5 new people were added to that in neighboring areas, whether they met, like, just came to have acquired the time to be allowed for it, or they are also in the neighboring areas and they are now allowed to be able to receive that benefit. That's what I have.
Okay, thank you. Actually, you are correct. Correspondence is later, but
Okay,
My
I
bad.
thought so, but it's on
You're
my
right.
report as one.
anything more in tree committee, or did you already cover it? Okay.
No, that was item 0.
Okay, on change of fiscal year, thinking of putting that on hold. What I plan on doing is, do the regular budget and then do a trial budget for 7 months and 5 months, and then track it each month to see what the income and outflow is, see how it matches up. I'm not terribly comfortable doing it until we get our 23-24 AFR report done, and we're still behind on that.
We're gonna go ahead with our meeting, sorry Gary, we're gonna go ahead with our meeting with VHS and Edmonds to familiarize.
When was that?
That is March, it's at the end of March, the last weekend.
Remind me tomorrow. Probably not, because there was also a kind of ridiculously high cost involved to it that didn't sit well with me, so want to do some more investigations on that, unless there's a burning desire to change the fiscal year. So I'll create a separate budget and see if there's any bugs that come up that we didn't think of, so. Partial tax exemption, you did that. Matt was getting information on bulk pickup. It turned out to be like $5,000 more than we had budgeted, so we're gonna put that off until next meeting, and Matt will have some other options for it, for the bulk pickup. They changed the way they're doing it, offering dumpsters instead of pickup, and it was a lot more expensive, so. He'll have a report on that for next month. And quit claim, Tom, with the Galway property, anything new on that?
Yes, I met with Kathy Crandall, who's the other neighbor, the other person who might be interested in purchasing that gore. And she said, I want to think about it, how much is it going to be? And I couldn't tell her because we have never set a price for that. It's,
How much for whom? I mean,
whoever acquires that has to reimburse the village for the cost of that property. It's landlocked, it's not terribly valuable, but we've never set a price, and I believe it is, 1,400 square feet that we're talking about.
if memory serves, I think the village, decade or so ago, sold a little strip of land next to Carrie Warner's house. Do you remember that?
I remember that. And
So-
I also think that we may have set some parameters of how much we would charge. This goes back into the early aughts, maybe.
Now, do we have a policy on the sale of public land, Susan, do you know? I don't
do
think
not
it's come up
believe
since
so.
your tenure,
Right.
but.
We do.
I think we do, yeah.
And there's a dollar amount set.
And I think that place on Wesley Avenue right over here, there was a part of the village went under the porch.
It happened when Connors bought the land.
Yeah, and Connors bought that
Yeah.
land, yeah. But there's a policy somewhere.
All right, so we should check on
I
that tomorrow.
think, if I recall, the policy is that we have to notify the owners of contiguous parcels of what's going on, because the village's responsibility is to get the maximum price for what it sells. You can't favor one party over another.
But is there a separate tax parcel for that strip of land?
No. No, the tax map doesn't show the gore. It took a surveyor to find that.
So who would be, I'm not quite sure how long the strip is. Who would be the contiguous neighbors?
Kathy Crandall and Stu and Julie Galloway.
It doesn't go
It doesn't
beyond
go- it
to,
doesn't go the
like
whole way.
behind your house and,
Right.
the Prout's
Well,
house?
the next house, I guess it's not really contiguous because there's only a point. The gore continues, and we talked about whether to make that available to other people on the street. We decided we're gonna deal with this one first before we
Okay,
talked about
that's fine.
that. So it seems to be really only Kathy Crandall and the Galways who have an interest.
Okay,
For reference, you might, if you're looking for things, you might look for Filkins. Because remember some years ago, Filkins had property across from the DPW. They, on one side, and they had the house on the other side. Now, they're both gone now, but, and then there was the middle part, the yard, which was the villages. And they wanted to buy it. And this was aughts.
decades and decades ago.
Yeah, there was Bob Filkins and
But it's on the DPW side,
no, it was on
No.
our, their side.
on the house side.
It was the house, between the house and the concrete garage. That's, to the north, immediately north of the house. We owned part of their yard.
Okay, I remember we've gone through this about 3 times
Yeah.
since I've been with the board, which is 1990, I think. And of course, the value of property changes over time. So there's no document in the village that says this is how much property is worth.
I thought when Carrie and Chris and Dominic were here, we settled on some type of policy but whether that included a financial.
I don't believe that included financial.
Okay.
And I don't see how it could, given the changing property values
Yeah,
over time. So the board needs to come up with a, you know, is it $1 a square foot, or 50 cents, or $1,000 a square foot? I am uniquely unqualified to offer an opinion as to that.
Well, that's why I was saying that some of those sales that we made might provide a clue.
Right, but I don't think any of them were landlocked, though. I mean, this is
No.
landlocked and useless.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
But could this have happened, like, could the road have extended further out, so when they're measuring certain
knows?
points, so instead, they should have measured from back forward and
Anything
not
could have
forward
happened.
back?
We just have to go by what the surveyor said.
Alright.
All right,
Does
so,
someone have a proposal as to the value of that gore?
I'd say $1.
Okay, so we're gonna readdress this next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have a proposal as to how to go about establishing a value for that gore?
I think we might need to take a look at historic landlocked, land values. Grab a couple properties, see what their assessed value is. I know there's a landlocked property over by my house. We could look at what that piece of property is assessed at, break it down into a square footage number, and that'll give a rough assessed value per foot.
If you can stop by my office sometime, we'll pull the tax map and you can point out that parcel to me, I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
I could actually, I have an app where I can point to you the tax map and it might give me.
Okay, give me the tax map number and I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah, send that to me too, would you?
okay. Yeah, I can do that.
So I would expect to hear back from Kathy in the next couple of days. Gary, I'll let you know what she says. If she's not interested, that's the end of that issue.
And so she has to agree to it as well?
She does not have to agree to it, but I think that because she's a neighboring property owner, that we need to make it as available to her as we do to the Galloways.
Oh, I see, okay, yeah.
And, you know, in theory, it could be a bidding war.
How does that work for the next neighbor down the line? Why don't they get it? I mean, you said we were gonna try to focus just on the Galways and whoever lives next to her, but if we make those
Because
two get an option, then why is
nobody else is contiguous.
Okay, well,
Okay, like this neighbor here,
Yeah.
there's just a common point. This neighbor here, there's a common point because the gore extends in either direction. So in this case, it will be Crandall and Sweets. If we decide that we're gonna.
The gore has barrier lines equal distant to the
Yes,
property line.
Except the surveyor, they sort of fades out, so we don't know how long that gore is. But with respect to this parcel here, there are only two contiguous property owners.
Alrighty. Next, I believe, a motion to adopt chapter 115. Having.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? Tom?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Eric?
yes.
Yes. And,
On your Madam Clerk?
approval of minutes, January 22nd and February 5th. January 22nd.
Does anybody need to see
All
them
of us were
again?
here.
They get sent?
Oops. Yep, January 22nd, all of us were here, so motion to accept.
So,
Second,
Second?
discussion? Tom? Jay?
Yes.
Eric?
yes.
Yes.
Susan, this is yours. Just under the Secretary of State.
Motion to
That's
accept the February 5th minutes. Second,
Second?
discussion?
Yes.
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 Yes. Approval of abstract.
I'll make a motion to approve the February abstract for $102,029.53 with 89,123.33 from the A fund, from 12,250.22 from the F fund, $655.97 from the G fund, sewer, water, and general.
Second.
Discussion? Tom?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Village Attorney?
Did the board approve this Nolan Engineering proposal for 5,262.79?
We approved a contingency, so would this fall under the contingency?
I think it would be within the contingency. Is that? Okay. But it's a proposal, I think we ought to have a resolution adopting or rejecting.
So a question, perhaps. This is for the engineering study.
Right,
Then we're going to have to pay for the work to be done
right,
and materials, some of them.
right.
How much contingency do we have?
20,000?
We never spelled out exactly.
Was it a percent?
What?
Was it a percent?
Well, usually they go, I remember Tom talking to you about it, I said, don't put a number in the contract, because whatever number we put in there, 20%, 30%, they're gonna spend it all. So let's just say we have a contingency, and that's what we did.
Okay.
I talked to Jason, the town engineer, he suggested 30% because it's an old building. Yeah, I think we might eat up more than the contingency.
That's where I'm going with this in
Okay.
effect, right? So there's the contingency in the contract, and there's the contingency we encumber so you can rapidly spend it if we need to. I want to make sure that if they're like, it's going to cost us $20,000 and the contingency is only $15,000 before our next meeting, that we got it covered. That's all I want.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think we ever spelled out a percentage. We never did.
Which is fine. Again, in the contract, I want to make sure that you can pay people to get the work done. So we just need to come up with a number of contingency for our budget, in effect, if it's not already there.
I have one question on this. I know that other structural deficiencies that was talked about, if we're gonna look into possibly getting that fixed at the same time, should we get an updated proposal from Nolan for the cost to fix that as well? Or are we gonna take care of that as a extra trip? Because that was,
I would try to keep it separate. Let's get this thing done and watch. We have a contractor lined up. I think what we're talking about, the truss in the middle of the lolly column is coming down. We could have them look at that and come up with a separate proposal on that. I would try to keep it as clean as possible, separate issues.
It's just the run onion strategy here. Every time we peel something back, we find something new wrong, so we're never going to stop.
Right, that's true.
So we should have a resolution to accept this proposal?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. So
I
Eric moves it?
move that we accept this proposal for $5,262.79 to do the engineering study for the replacement of the rotten column.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Tom?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that saves that. Now, do we need to do anything else to make sure that we have the money to pay for the other pieces, the follow-on work?
I think that's premature. We gotta find out, we gotta get the report first.
Okay.
Well, I hope to have the report on early next week and start construction on it
Right.
next week.
That's my,
Yeah,
right,
as soon
that's
as
my
we can.
concern is we
Right.
won't meet.
You're right, well, there'll not be another meeting.
Right, unless we have to call in a special session, which usually is 2 days, blah, 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 blah.
The way the contract is written, it says that there's no, we have a contingency, no percentage, all change orders are approved by the building inspector.
Okay,
I'm serious, that's how it's written.
I believe you.
now what did Napoleon say about that?
You wrote it, Tom.
So what's our budget for the project? Do we remember? Does anybody remember?
$150,000.
Yeah, I think it was in the 150 price range.
Okay, so there's the budget that we encumber the money for, and then there's the contract, and a contract is for,
I thought it was like 130.
150. We're contracted for around 150,000.
okay, so we budgeted for the exact amount that's in the contract.
Well, we signed a contract with the contingency for
But
150,000.
what have we budgeted for?
I don't know what the budget is.
Right, we don't even know what we budgeted for is the problem.
Can you
I know, I remember.
take a look at this?
I can, no, I mean, yeah, of which, I mean, that's going back through, when you think you did it, we got to go back through resolutions, that's, I don't have a line item for this, I have our budget line items.
I know we allotted a specific amount for the contingency when we signed the contract. I don't know what the amount is off the top of my head.
I thought we did too.
It was a finite amount of money that was approved.
No, not for the contingency. I have a copy of the contract. It says, and Tom and I discussed it, I said, if you put a finite number on a contingency, they're gonna spend everything.
Yes.
You have a suggestion?
Yes.
Let's talk about the franchise agreement while you go find that document, and then we can stop saying, I remember, and take a look at the document, and we'll know whether we got a specific amount or
Sure,
whether we don't.
take me 2 seconds.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay, we've got a franchise agreement proposal from Charter Communications / Spectrum. And it's dull beyond belief. Here's what you need to know. They proposed 15 years for the length of the document. That's a long-term franchise, but I'm not sure that that's inadvisable.
A franchise for what?
For the
Cable, running the cable lines, Spectrum cable.
Okay.
They pay a franchise fee to use the village
the village's
airspace.
infrastructure and property.
And it's maybe 6,000 a year. Eric, do you recall?
Sorry?
The Spectrum franchise, is that like 6,000 a year?
Maybe,
It's not a huge amount of money.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
The grantee, that is Spectrum, promises it will not abandon any cable service or portion without the village's consent. That is a good thing. Tree trimming, grantee or its designee shall have the authority to trim trees on public property at its own expense, as may be necessary to protect wires and facilities. There's a franchise fee equal to 3% of the annual gross revenue. And, you know, that's part of their fee that they charge people, so it's really our, the customers in the village that are paying that, and that gets passed along to us. They be paid annually.
That's the 6,000.
If we have a dispute, we agree to try an informal discussion before anybody charges off to court. And that's it, except for one item, and that is that they agree to indemnify the village, but they got a provision in here that says, provided the village shall give the grantee written notice of its obligation to indemnify within 10 days of the receipt of a claim or action. 10 days is ridiculous. I'd like to put 60 days in there and stand firm with that.
Do we have a current franchise? They have a current franchise? They have a current franchise?
Yes, and I believe 3% is the current amount.
And it ends when?
Did they,
When did it end? When does it end?
Just
the current
recently.
franchise?
Just recent December, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
So they're operating without a franchise currently?
we have gone, I know under Dixie, we went for over 10 years without a franchise agreement, even though we're supposed to have it. There's no reason that I can see to allow the current franchise agreement to lapse. And the current one is either lapsed or is going to lapse soon. So I have no objection to this contract, provided we get 60 days to trigger their obligation to indemnify.
Is it the sense of the board or a resolution?
I'm looking for a resolution. To accept the agreement as written, except to give us 60 days to notify them of the claim.
I move that we accept this, except for the 60, changing the 10 days to 60 days.
And that, the contract doesn't change the fact that any other providers want to run on.
It is a non-exclusive
Okay.
license.
Just wanted to make sure that competitors could still.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
Yes.
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 Yes. Village mayor, I would like to thank the village residents for their patience with the snowstorm and the construction, and give a big shout out to the village crew and
Absolutely.
for all the work they've been doing on this, and also the firefighters for going out in this kind of terrible weather. And that's it for me, trustees.
Nope.
All right, public comment. Mr. Finkel.
I know we built the ice skating rink quite a few years ago, and we never really used it because it was never cold enough, but I think this year it probably is. Is that something maybe we could see about filling up?
You know, as soon as we do it, you know what's gonna happen.
It's worth a shot, come on. It'll make it warm if you do. That's what you want.
Win-win, I guess. All right, let me see about that. Suppose I ought to see if there'd be enough interest in village residents to actually use it.
If there isn't, can we rip it down?
Rip it down?
I mean, I realize it is now the Sunflower Park. However, it does cause the water to back up from the north side of the park to the south side of the park. And
What?
And fills up on the inside and turns into a swamp.
The north side?
Yeah, over by the Christmas tree. It gets all swampy there because the water can't go because it goes towards that willow tree.
I'll have to take a closer look at that. That has not been my observation. I mean, there's plenty of water there. I mean, I'm not disputing that. You know, I wanted to make a pond there.
Oh, I thought you wanted to put a pond over further south.
Yeah, well, that's where I wanted to, because that's where the water wants to go.
Right.
It's actually the floodplain, we just got new FEMA maps, and that's all floodplain.
Duh.
That's
On the basketball court side? I knew the
Right,
other
the
side.
entire area is a floodplain, and then we built a dam. Basically, I mean, it is.
Let's take a walk on that sometime, because I'm not seeing it as a dam.
Okay. We'll have to wait until it melts.
As soon as we,
Yeah, as soon as you
as soon as we
water.
fill it in.
And lastly, the village attorney requests an executive session to discuss an employee.
Oh, wow.
So,
In fire stuff.
And fire stuff. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
But the problem, the concern I have is, there's two pieces to it. it's not just the
That
contract.
was sort of funded.
It's the
state
budgeting
was,
of our budget and how much money
contacted,
our mayor can
and they
spend
were-
in the
it's
case
basically
of
those
additional work we need done. Anything over $500, the board has to approve, right?
I believe we pre-approved
So,
one
as
fifty.
far as saying-
Oh,
Which-
yeah, okay.
Because our contract was for 130, and I believe we
Bypass
pre-approved
deal,
up to
the
150. I believe.
I believe that
think we put in
150 is what's
$20,000
stuck in my
on that.
brain.
It would have been better to budget what we did not do that.
Right, so we keep that in mind in the future also. My question